in that particular respect to enable, not clear teaching. And I'm speaking here as a product of a teacher. And as I said, it is really uncontested, Veronica, that nations must improve education, training, and innovation. And from our side, in terms of the angle we are taking an angle that is basically to then say, if we have to look at teacher development or workforce, we have to underpin it by infrastructure which is appropriate and enabling. It is of no use to then have great teachers that really are teaching in the mud schools. It doesn't make it sense for us to then find teachers teaching under the tree. So I think from our side as the DBSS, part of what we deal with is basically the infrastructure, as we said, where we're taking the social sector, education, health, housing, which are the needs for a teacher also. And I think for us, it's clear that when we deal with the energy infrastructure, schools need energy. You need power. And that's where we really invest in a lot to ensure that the energy infrastructure is basically provided in that regard. And the water and sanitation is another component that we're really then beginning to relate to education with, to then say, you need an appropriate sanitation at schools, you need an appropriate supply of water in schools. And then there is an issue of roads that we really also then empowering much more from the perspective of funding those roads in order to enable the learners to really be in a position to go to school. And then again, we're talking ICT as a specific focus from our side, and key there being the connectivity, because one thing for sure, in the construction of these schools, we realized that ultimately we put cutting edge technology in there, but there's just no connectivity. And that's where we're really then beginning to then say, that's how we want to then relate infrastructure to that effect. And the last point I wanted to make is that when we did the study with the development bank, with the World Bank, we found that infrastructure enhances what we call the instructional autonomy that you spoke about. We found that it also improves learner outcomes when you have appropriate infrastructure. We also discovered that it reduces dropout rates. And then we also then find that it also increases teacher motivation. So I'm trying to then indicate, to then say how important the infrastructure rollout basically enable quality education in the country. Thanks.
Okay, so we go on now with our second round of questions. And I'm back with you, Prof. Umadire. You've spoken about the role of universities in service education. Can I ask you our role with a combined LALT and with the language diversity? Can I ask you from your Pearl's background to talk on that?
Thank you. I think, like I said earlier now, there's a need for institutions of higher learning to take a closer look at their language, number one, their own language policies. Number two, the way teachers are taught, in terms of pedagogy, to teach language, and now specifically African languages. Because if you mentioned the polls results, we saw the differences between English Africans and then the African languages. One of the things that we discovered, having gone into schools to talk to teachers, is that, yes, I understand, I was taught this language, I know. I'm a teacher that's supposed to teach Sepedi, but I cannot be taught how to teach Sepedi in English. So it's creating a problem, the pedagogy that is used within institutions. Now, the University of Pretoria is already putting measures in place to try and correct that, so that we'll see that the teaching methods, the pedagogy that is used to train the teachers themselves is something that will encourage them, will give them the training, the capacity, the skills that they require when they go into schools now to teach. Because we did find that they struggle within the school system when they finish their training. Okay, now we are faced with this, particularly with the African languages.
Okay, thank you. Yes, because we found from the survey that only a third of our teachers felt that they were prepared to teach in a multicultural and in multilingual settings. And so this becomes, I think this might be the heart of our challenge.
But with regards to teaching within within a linguistically diverse environment, classrooms, the kind of preparation that the teachers are given are maybe skills to use differentiated instruction, for instance, skills to value other languages and not to suppress the use of other languages, to respect the language and culture of all those that are within the classroom. So there's progress, still baby steps, but yeah, there's a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. And so we come back to you, Doctor. Doctor, and I'm going to ask this question to both you and to Prof. Connolly. The role of teaching practice, and we all know we place our students in the school, and Mr. Tech requires that we place them in schools for a certain period each year of their training. How can this theory-practice gap be bridged? What are the ways that we can bridge that gap, which would also help the new teacher when the teacher arrives in a school, in a classroom, whom the department does an induction program, and the department needs to place a mentor with that student. What are your ideas for improving teaching practice? It's the work-integrated learning component. Okay, and I'm asking it to both of you, and we'll start with you.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right. Okay, so I think that is absolutely where our focus does need to be to a large extent. I mean, research and theory must inform practice, and of course, practice has to inform theory. And I think this is where we are going towards the new challenges, okay? So the other challenges I was talking about, I would say a bit are old challenges, in terms of leadership being distributed, and distribution is not just delegation and all of that. But when we get our students into our schools, and I think this is exactly where the collaboration, the working together needs to be so strong. We need our students to go in and come up with being able to work in the context. Now, in the context means that problem-based education, contextually based challenges. I don't think I've really heard much about sustainability today, but sustainability is a huge thing. I mean, we can't deny anymore climate change, global warming, natural disasters. How are we actually sending our students in there to use the school spaces to look at where the problems are and derive solutions from there? And I'm actually now not only talking about our students. I think this is where the coming together of students, initial teachers, pre-service teachers, in-service teachers, and that is where the contextual limitations are disabling if we let it, or enabling if we look at our spaces where we're working differently with content, we're letting content solve our problems. We talk about, we have spoken a lot about contextual challenges. I think we need to understand contextual challenges. What does it actually mean? It's different everywhere. So how do we actually solve problems in the schools, in the communities, and the larger problems without ignoring that we are in the times where the world is moving so fast, okay? I'm gonna touch, maybe, I'm not sure if you've got another round of questions, but I wanted to touch on AI versus technology integration, but I'll leave that for now. But I think assessment also needs to really be looked at between universities and schools. We have assessments for learning, assessments of learning, assessments as learning. Where are our learners actually growing in their learning paths? So not just teacher-centered, learner-centered, learning paths. Are our students actually using assessments to send out? So let's talk about what we want to send out. Who are those learners? I would say that the most important role a teacher has to play is send out those critical thinkers, those problem solvers, and those decision makers. But how do we actually teach them these skills? If we're looking, and we don't even have to go far, we work with the CAPS document, right? In the CAPS document, we're very used to taxonomy, working with knowledge across the knowledge scale. However, many of our students work as far as applying knowledge and leave it there. They don't go into analysis, evaluation, creating new knowledge. And I think that that's where the mismatch is between teaching and learning. If we want, and we want our outcomes to be that we're sending out responsible citizens that are those critical thinkers, they won't become critical thinkers if we're not helping them work with knowledge. Okay, so just understanding knowledge, comprehending knowledge, applying knowledge is not enough. And I think that's where I do see where the work must go. The mismatch between teaching and learning, the mismatch between students from the university side going into schools and being able to work with problem-based learning, looking at the schools they're in. In fact, we've done a little bit of work in the recent block where students go in and they have market day in the primary school, they have entrepreneurship, and they have sustainability integrated with natural sciences and all of that. And one of the tasks was that they find the solutions, they first identify the problems, and come back and look at how to integrate technology, integrate sustainability principles into how they become the problem solvers. And I think that's where we need to do more of, because just content without evolving content, without being responsive to our issues, is not going to take us anywhere.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Connolly, Prof. Connolly.
I'm going to echo the idea of higher institutions and schools should be partners in the development of teachers. We send our students out for practice teaching, and as you've heard, it's mandatory. But in many schools, and I have to be honest, in many schools, they do excellent work. They include those students in the running of the school, and the students learn during that process. But in other schools, you'll find that they feel that this is an additional burden, that they have more than enough to do, and now they still have to take care of students. And in many occasions, I've been to schools, and we visit all our schools, all our students, across the country, by the way, and I also go out to meet those students. And then you'll find that those students do not even know who the class teacher is that they need to be with. I have been to schools where they search for the student high and low because the student is not part of the process, and that is such a crucial development of the student's initial teacher education. So my appeal today is that we have to really reach out to our schools and find some alignment whereby this does not become a burden, but it becomes a mentorship of taking those students to understand what real teaching is all about. We really try to expose our students to different environments. We also go beyond just the TPRACT or the work integrated learning period. We use avatars where we set up different scenarios so that students can get used to working in different conditions. But as soon as many of our students step into the schools, they are being told that you go and sit in the staff room, and when your lecturer comes, we will call you. And then, only then, they get involved in teaching, even in the final year. So we do not send out our students in the first year, first semester, first year, because they just came out of after school now. We actually follow a professional orientation program with them for 3 weeks to prepare them to be able to go into schools in the second semester. So we really go through a very stringent process so that they are found to be ready when they step into schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Prof. Connolly and Dr. Raju have touched on really important aspects. The role of the school, the role of the educators in the school in helping to prepare new teachers, because you often hear the school complain about the teachers they get, yet they have a very important role to play in producing quality teachers. And while I have been working in the DBE, I've been observing and researching the new teacher induction program. And the positive feedback that we have and the way that teachers feel more integrated, more supported, they use terms like Ubuntu, we feel we belong, we work together, we share together. That role is so important. And so it's something that we could be replicating in our ITE programs if we were able to work more closely with the schools. And we know that sometimes it is an extra load for schools, but it's really important. Okay, so we're going back to, first I want to thank you for sponsoring this event, the Development Bank. We've never had, as universities, we've never had such a splendid setting. So thank you so much for that. How further and what further could be done from the Development Bank point of view to create a skilled workforce? In what other way?
No, thank you so much. And speaking as a partner and one that has actually observed, been with the sector for some time, and I think half the time and I think this issue has been preoccupying the sector for quite some time of teacher development, quality education. And I think there's so many inputs that has been drawn and lessons to then say what needs to be done. But I think our biggest challenge is basically transcending to actioning these things. And I think, when you look at all of these myriad of problems, there is a particular proposals that exist. What happens is that it doesn't happen. And then I think that's where our key issues. I mean, and for me, observing it from that point, it's what we need to work in. That's what part of the problem we're sitting with. It's not the technical problem. It's just more how we show up. And that goes to the issue around how do we build the right attitude? Because they say your attitude determines your altitude. And I think from where I'm sitting is that basically looking at how we really can create a skills teacher workforce. Firstly, it's important to recognize the role of the district officers as well as the principals in making sure that at the end of the day, you understand how we create a coalition of the willing. You see, the coalition of the willing, it's important for those that really you can pick up that they've got a passion for teaching, they demonstrated skills and the commitment, because it is no use to then be, it's like in partnership. If the partner is not willing, you'll go nowhere. Yeah. You'll just be wandering in particular. So, and I think for me, it's again beginning to then look as a sector to then deal with how we then incentivize. And when I'm saying incentivize, I'm not talking about the awards, where we then come and say this is an award for this and that. It's about what do we pick up from TALIS as something else that we really are able to then define and concretely put into perspective and say this is the way we're going to incentivize the teachers in terms of development. And one other thing from where I'm sitting is basically shifting from just generic skills development and beginning to look in terms of how we can look at focused skills development. I think Doug has spoken about is the leadership posture that we take, because it is all about that and how we build resilience in how we deal with the context, because the contextual environment becomes very important. It's how, when I come across that situation, I'm able to then deal with it in its own merit. And that's why I always say, I don't believe in best practice, I believe in good practice. Because best practice, you learn, you don't know what is behind that best practice. All what you see is a nice bridge being built. What was the attitude behind that?
Nice.
And that's exactly what we need to deal with in terms of saying, how do we transcend this education, trying to deal with the social skills? The other issue, collaboration, and collaboration becomes an important element, because then we should then be collaborating to expose and train and equip our teachers with the tools of teaching. And I think, again, we can't even forget the issue of governance. Can't be that within a running institution, we are not even well governed, we are not governing the school properly. Then it becomes a challenge, because even the students and everybody can see that it's chaos. And therefore, that becomes a problem. The other issue that I think from where one is sitting is the broadening of the mentorship programs and pairing of the teachers. You have spoken about the aging cohort of teachers, but how do we practically deal with that particular element in terms of saying, is a retention issue, is a succession planning issue? How do we then begin to bridge that? So it's those kind of elements that for me becomes very important, that we then pair the old with the young and see how we really deal with that. Obviously, it's going to have a budget implications in terms of that, but we have to invest in that particular approach. And the last part that I just wanted to then indicate is mainstreaming technology. I think that has been spoken about, and digitalization that has been spoken about. And I think for us, that's why our interest is in beginning to ensure that how do we leverage others to just ensuring connectivity in schools, connectivity in clinics, connectivity in communities, so that we are able to deal with that. And lastly, the knowledge management practices is to then say, how do we create, it's not always a classroom or a workshop type of thing that will put people at a particular auditorium and say, let's discuss, but it's always around how do we then deal with knowledge management practices and the peer review. Community of practice. Those are the key issues. I mean, peer review, so that at least at the district level, we are peer reviewing each other, we even do cross-boundary in terms of all of that. So I think for me, it's those kind of observations that begin to pull into the space. And TALIS, as you said, is giving you the pulse, is giving you the heartbeat. You can hear the heartbeat of the teachers themselves. And I think from there, we need to take an opportunity of how we then begin to ensure a skilled teacher workforce. Thanks.
Thank you. That was, a really excellent way of summing up our discussion. And our own research in the TALIS does talk about collaboration, and it talks about mentorship as collaboration and peer support through professional learning communities. And that is also a role that universities could be playing in participating in those professional learning communities and working with school-based mentors. And then connectivity also as a form of digital collaboration and digital connectivity for teachers to be able to interact with teachers beyond the borders even. So thank you. Those are really, is there anything that colleagues that have a pressing issue on their hearts before we take a few questions? Okay. To respond, yes.
I did want to speak a little bit about generative AI versus... Can you hear me?
Now
okay.
we can.
I did want to bring up the issue with generative AI versus technology. Now, I want to go back a bit, because, of course, generative AI is the biggest disruptor we've ever had. I think we can even arguably say it's even bigger than COVID. And so, really, we've got a lot to do to look at how learning and the learning path and presenting learners that leave the school system not with just a certificate but education, which is vastly different. And I think we need to learn a lot there. I mean, I would say attention is that it's dangerous in the immature hands. So with the teaching fraternity, I think it's a wonderful tool. It presents a lot of different ways of doing things. With the immature learner, and we haven't engaged them yet in the learning path, generative AI is dangerous. And therefore, it needs a lot more research, talk, policy, whatever. But I want to go back to technology, if I can just have a minute with technology. I think that we must acknowledge that it is a huge barrier in our country, from the universities into the schools, vice versa. There's a lot of literature that says that the barrier goes beyond just, using it to enhance pedagogy. It's a monster in the room. However, we have invested in smart boards, smart technologies, and where's the value? Because I often go into schools, they're not being used. I walk into the lecture rooms at our campuses, they're not being used. So I do think that this is something that we need to understand is a huge resource of value, because we don't really only have to work with paper resources. We know that the teacher is a resource, the learner is a resource. We're going to have to break those barriers, even if it means that teachers, lecturers, learners are left in rooms with smart technologies to just play. Give them the space to play, to break down those barriers. And I think this is some of the conversations we need to have to drill down until we find the root of our issues. The other thing I could say is about understanding learning, but I'm not sure if we've got time. And the teaching and learning environment, from an ideal to a South African context, and what's happening in between. Because we know we're very good with, we understand our context. We know, I think we all can take a minute to think, what is an ideal teaching and learning environment? I'm sure we can think of that. Where our energy needs to be is in the middle. In the middle, how do we move it? But not, and I want to again applaud the wonderful work. We've heard the wonderful work done in our schools, in our education spaces. However, it is not representative of our masses and many of our schools. It's another picture on the other end. So I think we need to find ways to get this wonderful work being done on the ground into our country, into all our schools, all our provinces, where it really is needed.
Okay, thank you. I see we have a few minutes left. Are there any questions from the floor? Okay. The roving mics will pick them up. Please, if you can just mention your name, where you're from, and then the question. It would help. Do we have the roaming mics? Okay, here they come. Yeah. I think we have about 6 minutes left, so we have time maybe for 2 or 3 questions.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the panel and the moderator of the panel for the robust discussion. My name is Raj Mirza. I'm from Gauteng Department of Education, Quality Assurance Directorate. The universities are aware of all the studies that are being done, TIMS, PEARLS, SACMEC, TALIS. There's a whole barrage of them. The question is, in preparing educators for the modern society, how do we ensure learning outcomes are improved? I'm talking in particular, how are they adapting the teacher education program so that learners are reading with understanding, your oral reading fluency, learners are numerate and able to handle numbers, your early maths assessment? Is there a differentiation in the learning program and pedagogy for new teachers that are coming into the system? Because you heard from the TALIS report that if we can improve that input of teachers, obviously the results of learning outcomes will also improve. So my question is a bit loaded. I don't know whether it's another $1 million question, but nevertheless.
Okay, we'll take the second question, and then we will, between us, we'll respond to both. Thanks. A third question, and that will be the last one then. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Mampaho Modiba. I'm the content advisor for the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training in Parliament. I just want to raise a concern regarding access of teacher trainees to schools for practicals, because principals can't behave as if they own the schools. The schools are for everyone. They are public institutions, and they are work-integrated learning spaces for the students who are being trained by universities. And I believe that if there could be a working relationship between universities or Department of Higher Education and Training universities and Department of Basic Education, because it's like this group of students are the baby of the universities, but at the end of the day, they are going to go back into the very same schools. So if now these two institutions are working in silos, where a principal feels like, or can just decide, I don't want student trainees, where do they get the right to do those kind of things? As if they were born in the offices, in the classrooms, because they also trained
That's right.
somewhere by other people. Why can't they extend the same to these students? Because there's no other work integrated learning spaces for teacher trainees except the schools. And we need mentors.
Yes.
Who are the mentors gonna come from? Where? From the schools, the principals, and the schools. And the other issue is the fact that, when they manage to get access into those schools, they are not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes they become sort of assistants to some of those teachers who are lazy to do the work. It's like they're floating the very same administrative workload to the very same teacher trainees. They're not giving them an opportunity to do what they're there to do. So it's very difficult because we're talking about the digital divide also between the younger teachers, the younger student teachers who are having more skills in terms of technology than the older teachers. Now they see an opportunity to use the very same student, whatever technological assistance they want. They run the schools in terms of the technology, but not even given the opportunity to be trained. And, sometimes we hear rumors where they don't even go to classes because I'm a niece or a nephew of the principal will just sign something while I'm at home. How do we guard against all these things? And how do we make sure that the very same principals or acting principals who deny this student the right to learn are held accountable? Because those are the public schools, and they must open them for this student to learn. Because it's like, I'm a learner driver. Where am I going to learn if I don't get on the road and disturb you? You find that those who've been driving for 20 years, now they want to push me out of the road. This is my work integrated learning space. I don't have any other. I must be here. So you need to respect that. So we need to find a way of saying they need to be held accountable. Because at the end of the day, they are the very same ones who are going to complain about the quality of teachers. Yes. When you are just signing whatever, I don't know what the timesheet for your nephew who is at home. But because you are a principal, you can abuse your powers and just sign those things. They don't even show up, but they pass. They are only called when an assessor from a university is coming to assess, and they are told this is what you need to do. So compromising the quality that we all want. So I think we need to look into these matters.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's such a relevant question. While we're moving the mic, I'm going to give, we have found, I work in the department within the GBE, and we have found a policy gap that we are working on with the different players. So colleagues, do you want to respond? Let's respond to those two questions. We've used up a lot of our time. Comment on reading and how we are teaching reading for meaning, and a comment further on the teaching practice challenges. Okay.
Okay,
You can do? Yeah.
So
That's
in
your
terms
field.
of using data, I mean, what we often do is in the classrooms, in the lecture halls, is what we call evidence-based practices and data-driven methods. So we use what we find from the results to improve what we do. But I think the challenge does not lie more with those teachers that are in training, but getting this information out to the teachers that are already in the system, which is what we were talking about earlier on. So we have the results from all the assessments. So how does that improve the work that is going on in the classrooms already? Even though we train those that are going into the field in the next year or two, what percentage is that of the overall people who are already in the system? So I think supporting teachers to understand how data should be used, those that are already in service, is where we need to partner with the other stakeholders to be able to support them.
Okay, Prof. Connolly.
I would also want to respond to that question. Our initial teacher education is not static. It moves as we do reviews from time to time. Just in the last year, we had an internal program review, we had an external program review, and we use the experts in the field to advise where we have shortcomings. We are expecting the CHE review later this year. So we have regular interaction, and at my university, on a Monday for an hour, we call it a power hour. We then have discussions on the findings and see how we can improve. So we have regular interaction, and we are not static. We do not prescribe and keep it there. When we find that we have to adapt, and we also have these provincial meetings with the Department of Education, Department of Higher Education, all the unions, we meet twice yearly, and we get feedback from them. And if it is credible, and the first thing I thought when I saw the TALIS report was, this needs to feed in to our current qualifications and how we set it up. So, you know, we have all these reflective measures to reflect on what we are doing and how we need to adapt it.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. We've used up all our time. I just want to say thank you and go back to the tapestry analogy, that if the universities help to strengthen those threads, the tapestry will hold firm. Ultimately, the quality of our system rests on the quality of our teachers, and it's a profession that the nation's most, I think, the most important asset for securing the future of our children. So thank you all for being with us this afternoon. We know it was the closing session, a long session in the afternoon, and we hand over back to the chair. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, panel.
The ECD program is a program for kids to learn life skills and just interact in a place outside of school.
So SafeUp started all the way back in 2007, actually, in the township of Khayelitsha.
The program itself has been in implementation for 3 full years, and now, realizing the desired scale of impact, we are celebrating the space that allows for all of the convening activities, interventions, opportunities, and access to real meaningful change for the community.
This particular facility was built by the city of Johannesburg with the support of National Treasury, but I think the most important partnership in this environment for us is the partnership with the DBSA, the Development Bank of Southern Africa.
The core objective of the DLAB program is to partner with organizations that are skilled in grassroots development work. So they're embedded within communities. They have cracked the DNA of development, which really boils down to how you grow people and build institutional capacity. The D in the development bank should not be a small d. It should be a big D. And it means understanding the complexities of development, not just as building infrastructure, hardware, but also building people.
Thank you very much for that video as well. But let's also give a round of applause for Professor McKay and the panelists. We are now heading towards the end of our program. Allow me now to call upon Ms. Agnes Rasemola to do a presentation on the NTA Excellence in Secondary Leadership, former principal, Sunrise Secondary School. Let us encourage her as she ascends this stage. Can we encourage her, please? Better than that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Allow me to lean on the protocol observed this morning. Excellencies, distinguished guests, good afternoon. I'm going to take you through the practical responses to what transpired this morning from the panel discussions as well as the TALIS report through my journey in education. This will be the presentation outline. And this is Sunrise View Secondary School, ladies and gentlemen, the school that I was appointed at. In 2014, the founding principal, where I found the school empty and together with my team had to come up with a strategic direction from the vision being academic excellence for all-round development of learners and the mission on how to realize the vision of the school. A value-driven school. I found this school without even that grass. The school did not have the solar panels. So I made sure together with my team that we leave the United Nations Sustainable Goals. As you can see here, we were responding to goal number 7. My personal leadership, like I said, my vision when I was appointed the principal of the school was to bring town to the township, because I felt that the bigger South Africa is in the township where there's informal settlement and so forth. And I'm happy to look back and say we have made it. If you can go on the social media and look for Sunrise View Secondary School, ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree that learners in undeserved communities are able to access the same quality education and opportunities if we give them as the leaders of the schools. Through collaboration, high expectations, and strong leadership, in 2022, the year before I left, we produced 100% with more than 75% bachelor pass, and we were named position 1 in the province. Then I decided to then flee and apply for a position in the office as the second manager. My journey began not in a boardroom, but in a classroom as a science teacher, producing the best results and winning the National Teaching Awards in Excellence in Physical Sciences Teaching. But I also believe that what happens in the boardroom will inform what is happening in the classroom. The meetings that I held, strategic planning and so forth, should be such that it directly impacts what is happening in the classroom. I was also appointed the caretaker principal of Platinum Village Secondary School because the best practices and the good practices must be scalable and replicable. And hence this school, their first matric, they obtained 100%. These are the results of my school across the secondary school from grade 8 to 12. As you can see, only in 2018, that's where we had grade 8, 87.2. So meaning that there is no holding back of learners, there's no bottlenecking. The results in grade 12 are authentic. And in my history as the principal of the school, the 6 cohorts of matric that we produced, we never got anything below 90%, which is the Platinum League. From the 936 learners that we produced in grade 12 for 6 years, only 17 do not have the National Senior Certificate. Building a strong foundation is very important. Hence, our success was never accidental because it was built on a deliberate culture of excellence. So there were high expectations for everyone, accountability with support from the school principal and the entire management, as well as collaboration over competition. And I want to say, when you were asking questions, I was tempted to respond, wait until my presentation. Because as a school principal, I was employing directly from the university. After 2017, realizing that those who are coming from other schools, they come to my school with the expectation of the culture that they come from. But the ones that I get directly from university, the Funza Lushakas, the PGCE holders, they came to my school and they did wonders. And I was throwing them in the deep end and teaching grade 12 and they produced the results. Because what is key and important is mentoring and coaching. And, you know, making sure that you support them to know that they can actually do it. And again, the school was a 21st century school such that all teachers in the school had laptops and we had the Wi-Fi infrastructure, everything that you think of. Because I became a professional beggar in terms of looking for sponsorship. And again, we have cut on printing. We said, let us reduce the printing because copy cost is very expensive so that we can be able to enjoy the digital gadgets. So that's what we did because I started that school with a bank balance of 50 rands. So that is the story for another day. We did a lot of benchmarking. After getting the best results in 2022, we visited Velabatleke in KZN. I did not go alone because you can't benchmark only as a leader. I took the entire SMT, the deputies and the departmental heads with me to go and learn the best practices. And we came back big-headed because now we found a school that is doing better than us. So it's always good to collaborate, network, and benchmark. I'm a lifelong learner, belong to SAPA. On this slide, I was in Shanghai attending the International Confederation for Principals. And if you can look on that, the picture there in the middle, there's our Director General. I'll explain in the next slides. I'm an African Union Continental Teacher Prize Award winner for 2021. And immediately after that, I ensured that I coached those who came after me. Then we had another winner in South Africa in 2023, Vicky. And then we had another winner, the recent one. I coached them, I mentored them. Because if you are a winner, if you are a leader, you don't want to win alone. I find myself in the circles. I'm a product of the Teacher Appreciation Support Programs of the Department of Basic Education because I won NTA 3 times. And I also won Batupili Excellence Awards twice. Intergovernmental. So when you are excellent, you don't only compete with the teachers, you compete with all the government employees and sectors. So here, this slide is very heavy because it has the NTA winners across the provinces, and these are the people that I roll with. Here is when I won the Batupili Excellence Awards. And when they invited me to come to the gala, they said, come with 10 people. Though the mixture of the 10 people was the school governing body, the administrative assistant, the general assistant, because it takes the entire team for the school to win. And thereafter, here it was the Ministerial Innovation Summit in Zambia. On this one, that's where the deputy minister actually met me because not everyone that you have met has met you. Here, that's where DG actually met me. Even after all the encounters that I attended, seminars and colloquiums with him and took pictures, he never met me. He only met me here at this conference where I was presenting. He was so impressed, he invited me to go with him across the country to talk to the principals with the topic leading basic functionality from the front. And these are the pictures across the 9 provinces where I got to know. Hence, you will think I'm working at DBE because I was with the DBE officials in 27 meetings Thank you very much, DBE. Now they have, I was in transit when I was busy with the DG's engagement meetings because I was still the school principal, but had the appointment letter of circuit manager in my bag. I took all the lessons that I've learned in my 10 years experience as school principal to the circuit. I'm a teacher, so I'm very jealous when I talk and I hear people talking. So the principles that I learned as a school principal became the DNA of my leadership philosophy. I transitioned into my current role and I replicated everything that I did when I was a school principal. Witoko Circuit, my circuit has 28 schools, 784 teachers, and 18,881 learners. My role is to inspire and empower, no matter how I find you. The aim is to make sure that you are upright and shining. I respond to the National Development Plan 2030, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, as well as Africa 2063. And everyone that works with me knows that we are in the business of SDG number 4, which is quality education. This is the profile of my circuit, and these are the number of schools. I profile my schools also based on the numbers and where the schools are situated. So I'm not going to explain this slide, but actually the bigger part of my circuit is the Greater Wittikong schools. It's only 6 schools, but they are giving me 40%. So that when I support, I know where do I spend most of my time supporting. This is my team. These are my staff members, the principals of Witoko Circuit. I am because they are. This is the day that they welcomed me. I will tell you all about it if I'm afforded an opportunity sometime in Brazil. I started off with my first meeting on the 12th of September. I decided I want to remind them about their roles and responsibilities. So we unpacked the job description the entire day for 6 hours so that when I start now telling them what I want, they understand exactly what I want. Because I believe that revisiting it annually is not compliance, but it's a leadership tool. It helps me a lot. It strengthens accountability to stakeholders. And I decided on the 15th of September, that was just hardly after the Free State DG's engagement meetings. It was a meet and greet session where I met with all my staff members, from a food handler, the cleaners, teachers and principals. The very same session of meet and greet so that they can know that the new sheriff is in town. It was also the launch of the QLTC. So we had stakeholders, we also had the traditional leaders, as well as the SAYS CEO, because I wanted the ethical and credible circuit. Here are my principals and teachers enjoying the branding, which I got through sponsorship. Little did they know that they are going to dance. The very same year, I was already invited to Paris UNESCO headquarters to take part in the panel discussion with other 4 colleagues in the world. Please, if you get time, the name is Agnes Rasasemula, you can just Google. These are the pictures showing when I was QLTCing in my school, now in the schools in my care. QLTC. I've also divided my schools into, here we were celebrating the first Secretary's Day in 2023 in September to introduce, things that we were doing when I was still a school principal. I also treat my secretaries every now and again because they do a lot of work. I don't have a budget, but I get a salary, so why not spend just 500 rand on them? I'm NTA personified. So where there's NTA, I always go and meet the like-minded. That's where I met some of them here. And there's a teacher coming from my school. Actually, the 3 that are here on this slide, they all ascended the national stage in National Teaching Awards because they learned from their own principal and formed the PLCs. Everyone who has been promoted from my previous school is part of my PLCs in terms of mentoring. Because when it came to promotional posts, they came and fished. They were fishing from the pond of Sunrise View Secondary School. Here is the circuit-based support team so that all units, CSTL, everyone there, they know that I get the reports for me to be able to maximize the support and know what kind of support that should be given to my schools. Still working with other colleagues, motivating their principals, training of the SSE and SIP, and here, this circuit manager, his name is Rasa Semula as well. My circuit is data-driven, so I ensure that everyone is trained on how to use Triple D, although some are still writing on the diaries. Training of SSE, I take the opportunity to use the ICT application tools. Here I was using the Kahoot to check if they understood the training objectives. And these are the circuit resolutions that we agreed that we'll have the staff manual handbook and SMT handbook. Oh, I'm about to finish. And yeah, celebrating with the learners, stakeholder meeting in Ethiopia, policy framework reviewing of CISA, attending the teacher task force, SAPA conference, again, sharing of best practices and learning from the best, and being invited by the likes of Mr. Zwani at Mpangeni High School. Keynote speaker digital conference. I'm also appointed, I'm a member of the ministerial task team. We are reviewing the white paper 6. Ask me where they saw me on the streets, because opportunities will find you on the dance floor. When you build culture, there must be a form of identity. So we started the shared World Teachers' Day celebration, painting the stadium green, attending the AFTRA conference, the Africa Skills Week in Ghana, introducing the second Metric Awards, having the first meeting after reopening, just to ensure that I motivate the top achievers with all the grade 12 teachers. A day after reopening of schools, striking while the iron is hot. The newly appointed principals, when they came to collect their appointment letters, they thought they are coming to collect the appointment letters. I prepared induction for the entire day. How do I send them out to the schools when they don't know what they are going to do? International Women's Day celebration. I also, as I'm a hustler, they didn't pay a cent and they were accommodated. My circuit is also profiled according to the complex. These are the complexes or clusters in my circuit. At Gqeberha, the colloquium for SAYS. And after the colloquium at the SAYS, the SANS director invited me to be the keynote speaker at the graduations. Benchmarking in Umlazi with the 6 schools, Menzi, I believe you'll know of Menzi, Velemahleke, they just won the National Education District Awards. I visited them together with 6 of my schools and their SMTs to go and learn the best practices. Same context, it's a township, and I took the 6 schools from my circuit who are coming from townships. I don't know where Dr. Mlambo heard about me, but she invited me to moderate the panel on Women's Day. Now we have a relationship because she will be working with 10 of the schools in my circuit. I started the webinar, actually this is the first webinar for the young teachers below the age of 35, where I was also joined by the MEC in my province, because the young teachers, they are self-sabotaging and short-circuiting their careers because they are not motivated, they are not directed. So I took it upon myself, and I did not want to train only those in my circuit. It was live on Facebook, so everyone joined. Hence, I changed my title to be Circuit Manager Yamhlaba Jigelel. The MEC and the HOD I'm overwhelmed and I want to finish. I'm left to, can I please just have 2 minutes of your time? Where the HOD and the MEC trusted me with the National Teaching Awards, from training of the adjudicators, taking part in the adjudication, facilitating the program during the awards, and later on coaching the provincial winners. And we became the highest province in terms of the numbers of awards, Northwest Province. And here, declaring the state of emergency when I see that schools are not performing, and inviting all stakeholders, including the ward councillors, because we are saying education is the societal matter. And one of the ward councillors, after the MEC saw on social media the work that he does, was given a special award at the NTA. Mediation of the availability of management documents, using the stakeholders, talking to the media license officers on how to brand and market their schools. Because as you can see in this slide, I'm the brand ambassador of the Bitoko Circuit, so they all have to brand their schools. And having a relationship with them. I've taught my principals that when you recruit, you don't just take teachers as if you are buying them from a vending machine. And these are the newly appointed departmental heads in Bitoko Circuit, and I've already trained them this weekend that we are coming from. And then live sessions with the best teachers in the country, Secretary's Day this year. And this year I was using the Mentimeter.com, another ICT application tool, because you don't have to tell people what they should do. Show them how it's done. That's what I do. Instead of celebrating my birthday, taking leave, I celebrate with my learners, awarding them. This is the grade 12 group. This is the primary school, because every grade is important. Colleagues, this is my last slide, but I want to say a cow does not give milk. You have to milk it. So I remain optimistic that Bitoko Circuit will remain in the Premier League. Thank you.
Can we please give her another round of applause? Thank you very much, Miss Agnes, because I am unable to pronounce this surname very well, but we are very much proud of you. What we have seen you doing there, I think it encourages more of us as women, young and the old. Let us continue to do the good things. I think we are now coming towards the end of our program. This is the last item in terms of this program, where Honorable MEC Masina has to give a closing remark. In the morning, I was the Premier, but now I'm back to my original position as the MEC for Education, giving you this closing remark as the hosting province program director. I want to indicate that we want to acknowledge the Minister of Education and Deputy Minister in their absentia, having left us during the day today. Minister of Higher Education as well, Mr. Butima Namela. All our ministers who have started the program with us, those who have left and those who are still here today, all our distinguished guests, good afternoon once again. As we draw this important occasion to a close, I stand before you filled with immense gratitude and pride for what we have accomplished together over these past few days in this week. It has truly been a week of progressive and enriching engagements where ideas were exchanged, perspectives were broadened, and our shared commitment to quality education was reaffirmed. I wish to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the participants, panelists, research teams, and delegations who have given their time, intellect, and energy to make this event a remarkable success. Your contributions have added immense value to the global dialogue on the teaching and learning. As a special word of appreciation goes to Minister of Basic Education, Ms. Siviwe Gwaube, and the Deputy Minister, Dr. Regina Mahaule, for entrusting this province, Mpumalanga, with the honor of hosting both the G20 Education Ministers in Daba and the launch of this TALIS 2024 report. Their confidence in us has been both humbling and inspiring. We are proud to have provided a platform worthy of South Africa's commitment to advancing education at a global scale. To our partners from across the world, thank you very much for walking this journey with us. May the insight we have gathered here continue to guide and strengthen us, our collective mission to transform education system for the better. The OECD TALIS 2024 was a collaboration among participating countries and economies, the OECD Secretariat, and the International Consortium led by the International Association for the Evaluation of Educational Achievement. This TALIS report launch event was made possible by the generous sponsorship of the Development Bank of South Africa, popularly known as DBSA. The DBSA plays a crucial support role to the education sector in South Africa. It focuses on financing and accelerating education infrastructure development, particularly in Southern Africa, to improve learning environments and addresses infrastructure backlogs that we are having. Key areas including funding projects like student housing infrastructure, the Accelerated School Infrastructure Delivery Initiative, and the Sanitation Appropriate for Education. It supports both public and private sector-led projects, and it has expanded its focus to include early childhood development and school leadership development to create more inclusive and sustainable education system. Please accept our sincere appreciation for making this opportunity to share the 2024 TALIS South Africa result with all our stakeholders. Gratitude is also extended to the following people for making today possible. As I indicated earlier, Minister of Basic Education and the Deputy Ministers, the Director General, both for higher education and for basic education, Mr. N. Sishi and Mr. H.M. Mweli. MECs from our sister provinces and their HODs who attended this program. Office of the Premier, indeed, for sending the MEC to come and do the welcoming. Our program directors who ensured that the program ran smoothly, we really want to appreciate. Chairpersons, panelists, and presenters who participated on the program, we want to thank you very much. We want to call upon you, as I'm going to conclude, to come forth. To all our guests who traveled here and honored the invitation to join the TALIS launch event today, Mr. Andreas Schleicher, Mr. Rochen Lee, and Mr. Kevin Gillespie, our colleagues from OECD, for their support as we prepared for the launch event. Participating schools, principals, and teachers, and the designated TALIS school coordinators across all provinces, the provincial assessment coordinators for training of schools coordinators and support of participating schools throughout the administration of the survey. Officials from the Directorate, National Assessment, we want to appreciate you. Officials from the International Relations and Multilateral Affairs, we also want to appreciate you. Officials from the Directorate Communications, expert peer reviews for all their valuable contribution that guided the development of the country report. To our TALIS Governing Board representative for South Africa, Mr. S.G. Padayache, for his oversight, support, and mentorship throughout the 2024 cycle. The event management and staff of the Nombolo Mdluli Conference Center for their excellent service throughout today's event. As we conclude, I would like to extend our warm invitations. Please do come back to Mpumalanga, not only for the conferences, but with your families to experience the warmth of our people, the richness of our culture, and the scenic beauty that makes this province truly the place of the rising sun. On behalf of the Premier, once again, Mr. Mandla Ndlovu, and the entire provincial government of Mpumalanga, I want to thank you for being part of this historic occasion. May we live here being renewed, inspired, and united in our purpose to make education the foundation of the brighter, more equitable future for all. Program Director, allow me to call upon this stage all our speakers, all our panel members, all our chairs for panelists to come before this stage for their token of appreciation. Thank you very much for this opportunity for you to come and be here in our province. Thank you so much. Maybe before I even sit down, allow me to remind members of the OECD of the meeting agenda that is to take place. They said I must also extend this invitation to the African countries that are attending here to be part of that meeting. As we are going to leave, they are going to remain behind. Thank you very much. The chairpersons of the panels, panel number 2, ne? Starting from panel 2. Yeah. Yes, and Zianda and Agnes to also form part. Please, can you please ascend the stage? Okay, let's start with Agnes and Zianda. Please, please. Thank you very much. Oh, Zianda is left. Can all the panelists and their chairperson come in front, please? I think we want to go home now.
Panel 2 and 3.
Panel 2 and 3, because panel 1 has already been given. Panel 2 and 3, chairpersons and their panelists.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you so much for being here. And then right now, would like to appreciate our MEC with a token of the gift. Thank you, guys.